Thanks for having me, Billy. I think we know, 20, not 20 years, 15, yeah. So I'm very excited to be here. I hope I'll use my 15 minutes efficiently because it's really short. Let's see, I need to see when we start. Not working. Anyway, my name is Hila. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Blend Localization. I have lots of years of experience in marketing, and I'm going to speak to you about localization for B2B marketing specifically, because let's see if it works. Okay. So that's what we'll talk about. We don't need to repeat that. Okay. Some stats, just like Tomer started with the power of video and how powerful it is. So localization, you all know this probably by now. People really like to consume content in their native language. They prefer to buy from websites that speak their language, and they spend more time on content that is in their native language. We also have here some stats on the ROI, on the investment on localization. And this smart guy said that if you're trying to convince people to do something or buy something, you need to speak to them in the language they think. Gartner ran a research among software buyers. Software, like B2B companies sell software, and the preference is very strong. People really prefer to engage with support services in their language, up to white papers. You can see the list here. I don't want to waste time. My time is short. So we all tend to think that B2C companies, they probably need to localize, right? We will not buy from Adidas or Amazon, or we are on Facebook. We like the Hebrew. We like to buy B2C brands. They speak our language. That's quite common. But why do B2B need localization? So I think Paz said it when we started. B2C, B2B, it's P2P. It's people that are making the decision. There is a human being in the end of the funnel that we are creating, and we need to speak their language. Many times, it's not even the buyer, it's our user. The end user is not always an English speaker. It's sometimes the developers or whoever you're selling to. And we see many cyber companies and software companies getting this notion of localization. And obviously, from coming out of Israel, many companies, they start with English-speaking countries, right? That's the easiest thing. We all speak English. We go to the US, then maybe we expand to the UK, Canada, Australia. That's easy. But is it all the same? Not at all, okay? When we go to these different markets, they have different preferences, different cultural nuances, different habits, different names of things, of items, and also different seasons. I used to work for a company called Promo.com. It's a video platform, and when we ran our Christmas campaign, we needed to to put Santa on the beach because it's not snow or winter in Australia, it's summer. So we created these ads specifically for each market, even though we only targeted English-speaking markets. So I have another great example here from Afimilk. Are you familiar with Afimilk? We have Meital here, who is the VP Marketing of Afimilk. They provide a farm monitoring solution, right? Dairy management. They want to increase the fertility of cows and the lactation intervals. I studied it. But you see, when they go to the US, they have a specific creative messaging, narrative, and you see the visual. And when they go to New Zealand, they realize that it will not work at all if they will go with the same strategy. So you need to adjust your marketing plan to the market you're going to. In this case, in New Zealand, you see the way the farmer is dressed up, the shoes, the boots, the species of the cows, they're all different. And if you do not pay attention to the local preferences, you might create a big damage to your brand, and you have one opportunity for first impression. Even the word labor is written differently in the US and in New Zealand, and here this is a mistake, a typo, but it should be without a U. So even spelling, yeah. So this is an example about New Zealand and the UK. And when and these are, you all know these terms, different names in English, in British English, American English, need to pay attention to that. And even if you're just going to the US, this is a map of the US and the most common spoken language after English and Spanish in all these countries. You see how many languages? So you want to speak the languages, and also the way that people write the dates is different in different countries. The way that people fill out a lead form. In Japan, they used to put the last name first and the first name last. So you need to pay attention to this if you want to really become natively local. And like Tomer said, I'm not pitching, I'm just giving you some tips and stories I hear from my colleagues, from my clients, and from my friends, and from my own experience. Things that you need to pay attention to when you are going global, and we are all global. So LinkedIn published this study. They chose that 9 out of 10 global users will ignore your content if it's not in their native language. And they also show, they analyzed 12 markets, that if you post updates in a local language, you get 6 times higher engagement on your content. So this is interesting coming from LinkedIn. So you see it has so many forms, and localization can start from just paying attention to the English-speaking countries that you're going to and to other countries and cultures and the languages that you go to. Eventually, we want to communicate with our end users in their local language. This example from Payoneer. They have LinkedIn pages for Brazil, for Latam, because they pay attention to this market, and these are a few of their biggest markets. So you want to communicate in the native language. So when is the right time to start thinking about it? How many of you are already doing localization or in the process? Oh, wow. I know some of you are, I know from experience. So obviously, it's a good question. When do I start? The company should be ready, okay, to go and to expand. Sometimes you feel it. You feel that you are mature enough in the existing markets that you're operating in, or you're looking for a new growth engine. You can start new products, but you can just open new markets. Sometimes there will be a demand in new markets for your product. If you check your Google Analytics or LinkedIn or social media data, you see that people are coming to consume your content from different countries. They come, they are interested in your product. Check this data. It's very, very relevant and can help you. And sometimes you just have a strong local partner and the market is ready for you and no one is there. So this can be a competitive advantage. If you start first, it's great. And if you see that all your competitors are already speaking Spanish or Chinese and you want to enter a new market, you have to speak the language, okay? So before you get started, I just want to say marketing can either be supporting the company in the process of localization, or it can lead the decision-making process, because we have the power to test and to prove the concept of, or the potential of a market. So I will show you how we can do it and how we can start lean and how to do it quickly. But keep in mind that going into a new market is not just about your website or Facebook campaign. You need to pay attention to the fact that people are going to buy your product. So they need to be able to buy your product, starting from payment methods, not to mention currencies, but at least payment methods. There are markets that don't use credit cards, markets that use specific payment apps. So you need to support these. And obviously, you need to make sure you can support the clients. If it's a physical product, you need to be able to deliver it. You need to have some people on the ground just to be in the market and to feel it. And to, even if you have a great localization partner, you have to have some people speaking the language in the company. So this is about a checklist to check that the company is ready to make the move. So I have a few tips here and some examples on how to get started, how to do it right. First thing, as we talked about, is to evaluate the right markets and the potential for your business. So we talked about data. Look at your data. I encourage you to go back and see the countries and the data that you already have in your systems. Another thing you can do is to watch the user behavior on your website. We all record sessions on our website, and you will be surprised to see that people, they auto-translate with a Chrome extension your website just to make it easier for them to read a tutorial or a blog post. So you can see what they translate, how they do it, which languages. And obviously some research is required when you do this decision. Try to see how the audience is behaving, competition, we talked about it. Is there room in the market? Do you need to educate your audience, or they're already buying your products? How easy it's going to be to penetrate or to operate there. So also try to consider, is the company ready? We talked about it, the readiness of the company, all the things that you need to provide. How language sensitive is the market? Some markets you can go in with English. You can test the water with English. You can see some people prefer English over localized content. And also think about what is it that you're trying to achieve. Are you trying to build a brand, to create some education, or you really need leads now for sales? And do you have a salesperson that can speak the language after you brought the leads? That's also important. And keep in mind that each market requires a different marketing strategy. That makes our life very, very hard. Don't take something that worked perfectly okay in the US and try to do the same in Germany or New Zealand or China, not to mention China. People make decisions in different ways. They think differently. They even search for your product in a different way in Google. So I really recommend running some multilingual SEO before you do a move, because you will be surprised to see that people on the app stores, on Google, they search for stuff totally different ways. I have here in the audience a few localization rock stars, actually, like Deborah from AppsFlyer here and a few other people. So if you have questions after my speech, you can hear from them. So we talked about different strategy, different holidays, different seasons. We talked about Australia. If you want to run promotions, B2B companies run some sales sometime. Try to pay attention to which holidays, when, why, different channels, different marketing channels. In China, it's super challenging. They don't have LinkedIn, they don't have Google, they don't have WhatsApp, nothing. Just to make it easier for you, we created this holiday calendar for all the holidays and special days around the world. It's free, it's digital, you can use it, especially if you run social media with different audiences in mind, if you have customers from different markets. So this is a free resource. And it gets us to the second point here, which is building a stage localization strategy. Meaning, don't go all in at once. It's going to be hard. The scope is big and you need a lot of resources. Before you spend your budget, I really recommend to start small. If it's marketing that's driving the change and let's say the product is not yet fully localized, try to test the demand. Try to start with the lean localized experience of your website. Doesn't have to be 50,000 pages. The top 10 popular pages on your website, homepage, product pages, contact us page. Try to support it with some, the capability to support these leads that will come, but start lean. It can be just a landing page for a certain market, and see how the reaction is. If people are preferring this localized version or they still stay with English, try to measure the traffic, the page views, and sessions. Once you did that, you can move to the other part, which is bringing traffic to that website or landing page or whatever you created, because people will not come on their own, okay? You have to market it, and it's going to be helpful to run some multilingual SEO for that stage because it's important. Localized creative campaigns, you can start testing ads on Facebook or Google or LinkedIn, and pay attention to the cultural relevant events that we talked about. And then you can move to a fully localized experience, trying to localize all the touch points. I do recommend to do it market by market and not to enter 10 markets at once, to make it more efficient and effective. And one of the important things when you start to think about localization is building your glossary, because this is a key to success. You can start, and if you don't have your source target, your source content polished and very, very high quality content, valuable content, So there's no point to translate garbage content, right? But then create a glossary of all the key terms, all the keywords of your business, and how you want them to be translated, because there is lots of room for mistakes, and many words have different meanings, and you need to take it into account. I also didn't say, but you have to start early. Think about it in the early stages when you prepare your product to be able or capable for localization. It's called the internationalization. The developers need to take it into account, because the code, the source code, and the way you develop your products need to be feasible for localization. So what should you care about? Let's say you're starting. 1 minute. Okay. All these things are important. I'm not going to go into them, but there's a lot to take into account when you start localization. You can start with freelancers. You can start on your own, in-house, outsource. Pay attention to these things. What can go wrong? Here's the fun part. This story, I'm sure you all know about Wix when they decided to enter Germany in 2015. They did a huge campaign, billboards, videos, events, and they didn't realize that the meaning of the word Wix in German is masturbation. They've managed to make lemonade out of this lemon, and they turned it to be very positive for the company. But this is something you want to check before you do a launch campaign. Another story is about Facebook, where they changed the name to Meta. In Israel, there were lots of jokes about it. I don't think they would make a different decision because of the Hebrew language, but it was nice to know, I guess. When you start localizing, many companies want to use AI translation, machine translation. It's great, and Tomer talked about it. But pay attention, it's very, very risky. Sometimes there might be mistakes. You can see, you're laughing already, exploited children is schnitzel yeladim. And you can get it in a seduced or to the nose or baguette. It's pita, lafa. To her nose is lafa, leapa, and seduced is pita. And this one is great. Chicken and mushrooms from the toilet. Who can guess what it was? Masla. What is masala? Masala. And annoyance on a plate. It's sausage. What was it? Annoyance on a plate. Mergev. Right. So these mistakes happen. We need to pay attention. We like to recommend human editing, human review, to make sure no mistakes happen on your content or website. I have here a few examples of testing that Globally is one of our clients. They test copy of ads of their end customer, B2C brands, high-end brands, I would say. And they saw different conversion rates on translated content versus English content. Here in Denmark, you can see that the translated content the ROAS was 60% higher. And in Sweden, it was the same case, 100% higher. In Hong Kong, on the other hand, it was better in English. So it's a less sensitive market. Sometimes people don't like the translated, like I don't like to see sometimes content in Hebrew from brands that I know that they're not from Israel. So take it into account. There is a feature on Facebook called Dynamic Language Optimization. Who heard of it? Good. You can put in Facebook copy of ads in different languages, and they will serve it to the end user based on their operating system, browser language, and you can see the results. You can test it. So this is a very cool feature. You don't need minimum budget for it. They test it on your own budget, and it's really cool. I'm finishing. Some countries have different sensitivities. I recommend that you measure everything you can when you start testing. Measure the visits, measure the conversion rates, keyword ranking, scale whenever you can. I put here some B2B websites that offer so many languages in a beautiful way because they have B2B buyers in all these countries. And I think that's it. Yeah.